And there's another change that could make a much bigger difference for voters and save a lot of money to boot. Political reporter J.D. Dapper joins us now with MOWA.
This idea was developed back in Massachusetts 130 years ago, and it's the way elections are run in Australia, Ireland, and come this fall, San Francisco. The basic premise, voters get more than one vote. Last fall, New York City Democrats had a choice to make between 4 major candidates running for mayor. And whichever one they picked, odds were none would get over 40%. So voters would be back 2 weeks later choosing again. And that is exactly what happened.
Democrats Mark Green and Fernando Ferrer will face off in a runoff.
But there's another way to run multiple candidate elections. What if, when you voted, you could mark not only your first choice, but your second and maybe third as well, and have all of those votes count? It's called instant runoff voting. And here's how it works. Say after every first choice is counted, like a normal election, no candidate has 50%. The last place candidate is eliminated, but computers add his voters' second choices to the remaining totals. If that doesn't put anyone over the top, the process continues until there's a winner. What's the advantage?
And instant runoff voting produces a majority winner, but with a single round of voting, so you don't have to have a whole separate runoff election.
Ah, yes, runoffs. Last year, the Board of Elections had to do runoffs for both mayor and public advocate, 16 days after the primary and just 3 weeks before the general election. Total cost, $17.4 million, not a dime of which would have been spent under instant runoff voting. And that's just the start.
Under New York law, if the Green Party doesn't have a 40% for their citywide nominee, we're required to hold a runoff election for one of these small parties that could still cost millions of dollars and could work out to be $10,000 or $15,000 per vote in the runoff election.
But it's not just about money. Instant runoff voting might also change how voters vote, especially in New York, where there are almost always more than 2 candidates.
One of the real benefits of instant runoff voting is it lets you really, it frees you to vote for your first choice. Even though you may know because of the polls that your first choice has no chance of being elected, at least you can go on record and saying, this is my first choice, and still have an effective vote because you know that your second choice then can be used to make the difference in the person who will ultimately be elected.
So could it happen here? If the Mayor's Charter Revision Commission this summer wants to put it on the ballot, New Yorkers would have the opportunity of voting on it. In other cities, the only opposition usually comes from the 2 major parties. We'll see if the commission is interested in bucking them this summer.